Hey guys, Mike from the Pop Culture Playhouse, and welcome to another Blu-ray DVD weekly wrap-up episode. In this week's installment, I got another great stack of titles to discuss with you guys, including the heavyweight collection of Rocky from MGM, the recent Arrow Video Blu-ray release in the UK of Hellgate, the Diamond edition of The Jungle Book from Walt Disney Pictures, and a special collector's edition of Darkman coming from Scream Factory. All this and much more, so sit tight and we'll be right back in just a minute. Alrighty guys, and welcome back to this week's weekly wrap-up episode. The first title we're going to be taking a look at is the Diamond edition of the much-beloved Disney classic, The Jungle Book. Now, being a huge Disney enthusiast and animation junkie in my own right, Disney's Blu-ray releases are always a sight to be seen, especially their Diamond editions, where so much extra care and attention is kind of put into some of their most prestigious works from their animated canon. And The Jungle Book is one of those titles that have just been so, anticipated and loved for so long, so finally seeing its Blu-ray release is really a sight to be seen. But for those of you that have never seen The Jungle Book, it deals with a young orphan boy by the name of Mowgli, who's, found in the jungles. He's raised by the wolves and other various animals in the jungle, and as he ages throughout the years and begins to mature and stuff, the animals kind of find that it's best that if he finally moves on to a land of his own kind, especially, with the threat of, the return of a savage tiger that's threatening, their area of the village. So Mowgli's kind of sent off into the jungle, and from there he befriends the very kind and lovable Baloo the bear. They, kind of develop this really great friendship and journey through the jungle, seeing tons of adventure and danger, and of course some really great classic iconic songs that are sure to be found in all of Disney's animated titles. But that's the basic plot just for you guys. As far as, the video presentation in this, Disney always does a really phenomenal job in all of their Blu-ray transfers, but most especially in their Diamond editions. And this one is, no exception. I mean, all of the really great colors in this, lots of greens and browns and yellows for it taking place in a jungle setting, and everything is just very, very lush and vibrant. The colors very, pop very much out in this transfer. The black outlines of all the characters come through very nicely. Black levels look really good, but, the one thing that really sticks out in my mind about this is, the fact that for such an older film, this was released in 1967, just how clean and pristine Disney gets these things to look without any, use of DNR or anything. It's just a very dirt and debris-free transfer, so it looks really good. It really allows you to appreciate that, wonderful Disney animation and those really lush and vibrant backgrounds that you see in this. But, one of the important things to note about The Jungle Book was that since it was released in 1967, this was actually the last the last animated film that Walt Disney ever oversaw before his untimely death. And, prior to that, some of the Disney output, at least from their animation studios, may have kind of dipped in quality because Walt's attention was kind of, preoccupied with, the Disney company's, descent into television, as well as the debut of Disneyland in California. So Walt was very preoccupied that he couldn't give as much attention as he, normally would have wanted, into the animated projects at that time. But The Jungle Book is a real, true return to form where Walt was very much involved in it, and it really shows in not just the animation, but, the lovable characters that are found in this one, the story in and of itself, and of course the great songs that are provided yet again by the Sherman Brothers. So The Jungle Book is definitely, an older Disney animated title that has deserved all the praise it's gotten over the years, and, Disney's Diamond Edition is just a really splendid way to kind of showcase all that great artistry and that great storytelling yet again. But jumping back into the presentation of the film itself, the audio is really great in this. Like I said, those great, Sherman Brothers songs are coming across loud and crisp and very robust. There's no hiss or distortion to intrude in the listening experience of this track. So overall, another 5-star, review as far as video and audio goes, which is to be expected on all of Disney's Diamond editions. And of course, this being a Diamond edition, this is choked full with special features, over 2 hours to boot. You have an at Disney Animation sparking creativity feature, which talks to a lot of the Disney animators that are working at the studio now. You get a karaoke sing-along featurette. You get a recently discovered alternate ending, which is really cool. It's told in storyboard form with narration, but it's very cool. It was recently discovered in the Disney vaults and included on this Diamond edition, so very, very cool stuff. You get a Music Memories and Mowgli featurette, which is a really cool, sit-down conversation between Richard Sherman and Diane Disney Miller, Walt's daughter, and one of one of the renowned artists at the time that worked on the Jungle Book, as well as 101 Dalmatians. You get I Want to Be Like You hanging out at Disney's Animal Kingdom featurette, which is a really cool exploration of that great park in Disney World. And then, of course, you get two great special introductions by Diane Disney Miller, excuse me, and Richard Sherman, and you get a Disneypedia Jungle Mania feature, as well as all the previous bonus features from the DVD edition ported over. So, great special Diamond edition of the Jungle Book by Disney. So, let's go ahead and take a look at this packaging. Really nice, vibrant gold banner on that. You get all the, great characters on there. I really like, the font going down this way. I think, some people might not really dig that as much, but I think it works really well on this Diamond edition of the Jungle Book. We'll spin that around there. Some really nice, shiny, gold slipcover on there. And then when you take the slipcover off, you get that cover art that mimics that slipcover right there. And then when you pop this one open, you get the Blu-ray over on this side, some handouts over on the opposite side with the digital copy code, and then of course you have your DVD in the background there, as all the Diamond editions come with. So overall, the Diamond edition of Disney's The Jungle Book is a true sight to behold, and if you're a big fan of Disney animation, or animation in general, the Diamond edition of The Jungle Book definitely deserves a spot in your shelf today. It's available right now. And next up, guys, celebrating their 90th anniversary, MGM just recently released Rocky, the Heavyweight Collection. Now, I know all the Rocky films have been previously released on the Blu-ray format in another box set, but of course, being their 90th anniversary, MGM decided to re-release the films, being one of the most cherished and beloved franchises of all time, in a new box set. But for those of you that have been living underneath a rock for the better part of 40 years and have never seen Rocky, Rocky stars Sylvester Stallone as a, down-and-out, struggling boxer by the name of Rocky Balboa. He's kind of a low life. He doesn't have much going for him in life. He just kind of dilly-daddles around Philadelphia, playing these local fights when he really could have a shot at being a contender. Luck has just never really been on its side, but when reigning champion Apollo Creed, played by Carl Weathers, decides to kind of give a local boy a shot at the World Heavyweight title, he stumbles upon Rocky Balboa's name and decides it would be a great matchup for him, and that's when, Rocky's whole life gets turned upside down when he went from this poor, struggling Philadelphia boxer to having a real opportunity at winning the World Heavyweight Championship, and that's really where the whole film is gearing towards, is Rocky's, journey into, the big leagues of boxing in this heavyweight champion match. It's hands down one of my favorite films of all time. The performances are absolutely stellar, just skillfully directed by John G. Avildsen, Sylvester Stallone providing, not only a wonderful performance, but also an incredibly emotional and heartfelt screenplay. He's surrounded by a wonderful cast of characters, like Talia Shire, Burgess Meredith, just an incredible amount of people, a wonderful film to be seen if you've never seen it, and of course, it was so successful and just so popular that MGM just continued to, kind of develop the franchise even more, through Rocky 2, 3, 4, 5, and of course 2006's Rocky Balboa. And that's everything that you get here in this set. And, the main draw to really pick up Rocky the Heavyweight Collection is the original Rocky was just given a new 4K transfer, and that's really what I'm going to be talking about in this. The 4K transfer is really breathtaking. I think it looks really beautiful, but you have to keep in mind that Rocky was a really low-budget, cheap film that was shot in a little under 30 days. They were shooting, in the very real streets of Philadelphia. All the exterior scenes that you see on here were used with all natural light. There were no, camera lights made to, brought in to make the actors look good. This was a very low-budget, dirty, and gritty film, and it shows in, the film itself, but, this new 4K transfer from MGM looks really breathtaking. I mean, skin and detail looks really nice. The black levels look surprisingly really good, considering, there's a lot of night exterior shots, Rocky's, leather jacket and his black fedora hat come in really nicely with the black levels, and while this was low budget, and they're definitely taking advantage, they're taking advantage of the gritty, real streets, everything is captured so nicely. There's a really great grain structure in this where that really wonderful, filmic look that you probably saw back in 1976 when it aired is very, very apparent in the transfer. Very clean and, dirt and debris free in this. I was really impressed with this. While, this could have just kind of been a really quick and easy repackaging, the 4K transfer of the original Rocky is really great, and the audio track is really wonderful as well. Dialogue comes across with no hitches at all. The boxing matches come across very, robust and loud. The roar of the crowd comes across really well, in your sound speakers, but really great stuff. The special features in here, one of the, the main draws as far as the special features are newly discovered 8mm home movies, with narration provided by the director, John Avildsen, as well as the production manager, Lloyd Kaufman, and these were actually found just recently in Lloyd Kaufman's basement. So it's really cool to get this fly on the wall, home movie perspective of, the filming of these really iconic scenes. I mean, you're seeing this footage, you're watching John G. Avildsen shoot the famous Rocky shot of Rocky at the top of the steps waving his arms, while Lloyd Kaufman is filming just kind of for, his own collection and, his own memories. But it's just amazing to, watch that and think they had no idea what they were making. They had no idea that they were making cinematic history at that moment. So it's really cool stuff, and a ton of, all the other special features that were on the previous release have been ported over, as well as the In the Ring making of featurette. You also get a behind-the-scenes featurettes of makeup, music directing, and camera work. You get boxing featurettes, 3 rounds with a legendary trainer, Lou Duova, the opponents in the Ring of the Truth. You get tributes to Burgess Meredith and James Crabe, an interview with the legend, Burt Sugar, all that and much, much more. The majority of the time I did want to talk about the 4K transfer, because as far as the other films, Rockies 2 through Rocky Balboa, you're getting the same transfers ported over that were found on the original box set, so there's really nothing to really talk about there. They've been up before, it's the same transfers, no remastering work has been done to that, but the 4K transfer of the original Rocky really blew me away, and it's just really remarkable. So all that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the packaging here. I do really like this painted kind of, older poster design look. Very classy stuff. You don't really see artwork like that done on movie posters or, home video releases nowadays, especially for bigger catalog titles from the studios like this. So I really like that. Very classy stuff. When you turn that over, very similar design with the painted looking, painted kind of look with Rocky holding the boxing belt there. And then when you take that out, you kind of take this little cardboard slipcover off. You get that same cover art that was mimicked on the box earlier. And then when you open that up, you have Rocky and Rocky 2. Again, all these are on their own individual discs. Rocky 3 and Rocky 4. And then, of course, you get Rocky 5 and Rocky Balboa. So, all that said, guys, I'm a big fan of Rocky the Heavyweight Collection. Was blown away by the 4K transfer. The Rocky franchise is one of my favorite franchises. I never grow tired of these films, and especially the original film being one of my favorite films of all time. But, if you haven't picked up, the older box set, then the Heavyweight Collection of Rocky is definitely the way to go. It looks great, and it's a really nice bundle to have all these films together in one Blu-ray box set. So, if you're interested in it, it's available right now from MGM. Alrighty guys, and available right now from the UK, the great Arrow Video just released in a limited edition copy form, Hellgate. This film stars a group of college kids who are off on a cross-country trip when they encounter the urban legend of the Hellgate Hitchhiker, which is basically, a tale of a lonely girl in the 1950s who was assaulted and tragically killed by a biker gang, and now apparently her ghost is supposed to wander the roads, luring unsuspecting drivers. Hellgate is just one of those films that really defines, that late, mid to late 80s, early 90s VHS boom. Hellgate was just one of those titles that was, really found a life on the VHS shelves, and while it had always evaded me on the VHS format, I was thrilled when Arrow Video announced that they were putting this out on the Blu-ray format, because I, for one, had never seen the film, although being very interested for many years, but after having seen it, I mean, this is just one schlocky B-movie fest in all the greatest ways possible. Oddly enough, this film was actually shot in South Africa, but I don't think that you would really notice that, because it's just, you know, it looks very American. They got people, with the exception of course Ron Palillo, they got, you know, a cast that could do American accents very well. There's nothing about it that really, you know, screams out South Africa, but it just has this very inherent weird tone. It's almost like an EC Comics come to life, but just, you know, just the notch on it has just been turned up very much to 11. I mean, there's just so much, you know, over-the-top eye candy in this one, some really great, cool makeup and special effects to be found in this one, but, you know, there's no denying what it is. It's a very schlocky piece of B-movie entertainment, cheesy to the core, but it's totally up my alley. I mean, I had such a great time with Hellgate, but it's just got such a very odd and unique tone to it that you can't really pin down. I mean, it's a very odd curiosity, and if you've never seen Hellgate, I would definitely recommend it to anybody, that's a horror lover or a cult movie aficionado, because there's just something inherent in a film like Hellgate where I know I'm going to return to it more than once. You know, there's just so many wild, off-the-wall things and some very funny and comedic moments in this. Some really great comedy comes from the core cast, but I mean, you know, like I said, it's very much like a, you know, an EC comic like Tales from the Crypt or something, just brought to life in a very 80s and loud and neon lit kind of way. But Arrow Video's treatment of this is actually pretty nice. The remastering on this is provided by Lakeshore Entertainment, and while I would say that it's probably cleaned up the best that it is, there's definitely some flakes and speckles to be seen, you know, within the film throughout its runtime, but I guess the best way to describe the transfer is that it's probably cleaned up the best that it is. I mean, you could definitely appreciate the neon lights that you're going to see in this one. You know, detail in actors' faces is pretty nice, but while it's cleaned up, I think it's cleaned up just enough, but not overly cleaned up where you're going to be kind of, you know, raving how amazing the transfer, you know, looks. It's cleaned up just enough, but it definitely still retains that very great, you know, video authenticity that, you know, this film kind of found its life on, if that makes any sense to you guys. But I wasn't disappointed with it. I just think that the transfer of a film like Hellgate, the transfer that this one received, is very fitting to the kind of film that it is. I think that's the best way to put it, but certainly not disappointing. It's actually very fitting and, you know, very much what I was hoping to see done to it. The audio track is also very good as well. Everything comes across clear, nothing to be lost in the track on that. But with any Arrow Video release, of course, this is going to be choked full of special features, and they've done it yet again. You get a Road to Perdition B-movie style, which is an extensive interview with Hellgate director William Levy, which is like a 35-minute interview with him. Very interesting stuff. He kind of goes into the details of the South Africa shoot, as well as his other films that he's done, like Skate Town, USA. Very, you know, informative, you know, interview. He talks a lot about the film, what it took to get it made, you know, working with the South African crew. Very great feature, and I had a lot of fun with that one. You get an alien invasion, blaxploitation, and ghost-busting mayhem. Film scholar and fan Howard S. Berger reflects on the film, which is also another really good interview and kind of sheds light about the film and its oddities. Kind of a, you know, a lot of the stuff that I was reiterating to you guys in my opinions is what Mr. Berger talks about there. So it's, you know, I think it's a very universal feeling that a lot of fans and cult aficionados have towards a film like Hellgate, but a really good interview nonetheless. And then finally you get a Video Nasty interview with Kenneth Hall, who's the writer of the Puppet Master series, and he speaks about the whole direct-to-video horror boom that took place in the late 80s and early 90s on VHS. So it's really cool. It's a very nice, fitting, you know, round out featurette to the great features on here. You also get a reversible sleeve of the original poster art, which I'll showcase for you guys in just a minute, as well as a new collector's booklet with a new writing on the film by Fangoria writer Lee Gambin, which is a great write-up, a really awesome, informative, funny essay found in here, which I'll showcase in just a second. But why don't we just go ahead and take a look at that great, you know, custom cover art. This is a newly commissioned artwork by Graham Humphreys. I think it's really great. Definitely blows the original poster way out of the water, so I really prefer this cover. When you turn this one around, you get a nice description of the film, as well as, you know, all the special features that you're going to be finding in this one. And then when you crack this one open, you have some great disc art that mimics the newly commissioned artwork. That's the Blu-ray there, and then on this one you get the DVD, and then I'll pop this one right out for you guys so you can appreciate the alternate original poster art. That is the original poster art, but it's pretty bland compared to Mr. Humphrey's newly commissioned artwork. That one I really much prefer. And then, when you look in here, you get an advertisement. Apparently, Arrow's going to be putting out City of the Walking Dead, which is pretty cool stuff. And then this is the booklet that they give you. Really good stuff. There's the background art, and I'll give you, just kind of flip through some of the pages here. Some credits there, who starred in it, some really great pictures of the cast and the crew, and then this is where, of course, the essay takes place. Very long and very, informative essay that goes on quite a few pages. Some more screen grabs from the film in there, but some very cool makeup designs in this one. I gotta, that can't be said enough. Some very cool stuff in this one. But like I said, if you're a fan of schlocky called B-movie stuff, Hellgate is a very odd one for sure, but one that I had a great time with. Arrow Video did a phenomenal job picking this one up. So if you're a fan of this movie and you want it on your shelf, I would definitely recommend picking it up sooner than later because it is limited to 1,000 copies and it's available right now. Alrighty guys, and coming out next Tuesday, February 18th from Scream Factory is the collector's edition release of Darkman. Starring a young Liam Neeson as a struggling scientist who's on the verge of a major breakthrough of synthetic skin, his lab is broken into and destroyed by a league of gangsters who not only destroy his work, but burn him beyond recognition and leave him for dead. Unfortunately for them, Liam Neeson's character bounces back and kind of salvages the remains of his work and dons this alternate persona known as Darkman, where he can use the tools of his trade to transform and disguise himself into anyone he sees fit in order to extract revenge on those who harmed him. And along the way, he's trying to, slowly rekindle the romance that he had with his girlfriend, played by Oscar winner Frances McDormand. This film is just a very cool, action-oriented, comic book, very pulpy film with, horrific elements to it, a lot of comedy in it as well. It is directed by Sam Raimi, director of the Evil Dead trilogy and Drag Me to Hell. So there's a lot of that, over-the-top, ridiculous kind of, mind, bending humor that Sam Raimi brings to all of his films, but it's really matched with a very, comic book superhero angle, which is interesting to note because in the wake of Tim Burton's success of 1989's Batman, it would seem fit that all the major studios would want to cash in on the massive success of Batman. At that time, you probably would have assumed that other studios would have tried to follow up with a Spider-Man movie or an X-Men movie at that time, but, oddly enough, they didn't. You had Disney, releasing Dick Tracy and The Rocketeer, which are, both based on, kind of older, pulpy, comic strips, and, then you have something like Darkman, which, wasn't, a comic pulp strip from the 40s or 50s, but it feels very much in the same vein of things like that. It's an original concept, but it feels like a much older superhero that you would have seen in the Sunday, comic strips or something, in the 40s or whatnot. But I think that was very much intended and very much the kind of spirit that Sam Raimi was going for in this one. But it's a very cool, effective little film. Liam Neeson really turns in a very compelling and believable performance. The makeup designs in this are really, really wonderful. I mean, that is just practical makeup effects, really put to the test, and they really shine in this. The makeup work done on Liam Neeson to, transform him into the brutally burnt Darkman is really effective, and it looks just so wonderful. And then, of course, he's surrounded by a great cast by, the likes of Frances McDormand, who plays his love interest, and then a great villain played by Larry Drake from Dr. Giggles fame, who plays just, this really, ridiculous villain who's, he's very funny, very dry sense of humor, but, very funny and sinister at the same time. So it's a very cool, one-of-a-kind sort of, superhero film and a very unlikely, response to the success of Tim Burton's Batman, but one that I've always dug and was very thrilled when Scream Factory decided to pick it up for a very much deserved collector's edition. The 1080p transfer on this one looks really good. There's a lot of, there's some great filmic grain structure in this one. It's not quite as, robust or colorful as you would imagine, but then again, it was kind of shot like that. Darkman spent a lot of time obviously in the dark, and you know, it's not a very bright or overly colorful film, but I think it's very true to the source. You know, dirt and debris, you know, any scratches are very minimal at best, but you know, overall the transfer does look really clean and very nice, and probably the best I've ever seen Darkman look. So yet again, Scream Factory definitely knocks it out of the park with you know, a great transfer, and the audio on here is really good. Some really great action shootouts and a really great you know, helicopter finale that, you know, really will send your speakers for you know, quite the ride. But of course, with all of their special edition their collector's edition releases, Scream Factory has put a ton of stuff in here, including, get this, a really awesome interview with the one and only Liam Neeson. He sits down for a roughly 7 to 8 minute interview talking about the production and the makeup work involved in that went into this film, but it's just so cool to see that Liam Neeson, today's Liam Neeson, sat down to talk about Darkman. I think that just really goes to, you know, show a lot about, you know, the kind of guy that he is, that he would be willing to sit down for, you know, a film that an actor of his stature might look back on and think it was garbage or rubbish, but it's very cool to see him sit down on that. As if that were not enough, you get a new interview with Frances McDormand, who's just as charming and as informative as Neeson is. You get an audio commentary with the director of photography, Bill Pope. You get an interview with actor Larry Drake, who's really great. Interviews with Durant's men. It was actually the two thugs that were in Larry Drake's gang in the film, Dan Bell and Danny Hicks. You get a Darkman's design featurette with the interviews from the production designer as well as the art director. You get a Face of Revenge featurette, an interview with special makeup creator Tony Gardner, which is a really informative listen, and you know, really great to hear, you know, what he went through to kind of achieve the results that he did in Darkman. Great featurette. You get original storyboards, a theatrical trailer, TV spots, the vintage electronic press kit, vintage cast and crew profiles on Sam Raimi, Liam Neeson, Frances McDormand, and Larry Drake. And all of that to boot, you also get this new custom cover art by Gary Pulin, which originally I wasn't too in love with it, but really watching the film again and hearing, you know, the interviews from all of the cast and core talent in this, it really made me appreciate, you know, what kind of film this is, going back to the roots that, you know, Darkman really feels like an older property, something more in the vein of like a 50s, you know, pulp or, you know, comic strip or something. I think that Gary Pulin's, you know, cover art and new design is actually pretty underrated. I think that it actually encapsulates the spirit of Darkman really well and conveys that, you know, really nicely. So I really like, actually, you know, in retrospect, what he achieved on this one. So I think that's really solid stuff. When you turn this one to the back, of course, you get a plot description as well as, you know, that tremendous list of special features there and some screen grabs. And with their collector's edition, you always get the option of, you know, utilizing the original one-sheet artwork, which I've done there for you guys. Really awesome stuff. And then, of course, on the back, you get some new screen grabs. And then when you pop this one open, you get the Blu-ray that mimics the original one-sheet poster art. Again, great discard on that one. But like I said, if you're a fan of Sam Raimi or, you know, early 90s, you know, action, superhero, darker superhero movies, then Darkman's definitely up your alley. Scream Factory has served up another awesome collector's edition in their long-running collector's edition line, so definitely check this out when it becomes available on February 18th. Alrighty guys, and also available from Arrow Video in the UK in another limited edition 1,000 copy run is Hell Comes to Frogtown. In another odd B-movie exploration, Hell Comes to Frogtown deals with a nuclear war that's basically wiped out the majority of the population, but the few that do remain, there aren't many fertile men around, and even more, you know, less women that can even get pregnant. So when ex-con Sam Hell, played by Roddy Piper, most famously from John Carpenter's They Live, is, you know, captured, he's kind of let go into the custody of a medical group that are going to use him for government needs, that are going to, you know, use his very fertile ability, being one of the only fertile men around, to impregnate women in order to, you know, create offspring that can kind of fight in the war and kind of, you know, continue to have civilization going on. A very noble effort, if you ask me. But, you know, a very oddly unique concept that's kind of, you know, matched with very B-movie sensibilities and some great, great special effects and makeup found in this one. But, yeah, this one, this film is very similar in vein to Hellgate, where It was kind of relegated to the VHS shelves, and that's kind of where it found its life, was on VHS, you know, people renting it throughout the late 80s into the early 90s. And, you know, here in the States, Hell Comes to Frogtown has kind of just been, you know, dumped on multi-packs or double features, but Arrow Video has decided to give it, you know, a Blu-ray DVD combo treatment and a limited edition 1,000 copy run, which is really awesome because it definitely deserves it. It's a wildly fun time matched with Roddy Piper's, you know, hokey, over-the-top, likable, you know, persona, and, you know, some beautiful, beautiful women to be seen in this. And, you know, who doesn't love nuclear war, you know, films? It's just always a good time, especially matched with, you know, frog mutants that are, you know, slowly taking over the planet. Who doesn't love stuff like that? Absolutely. But, you know, Arrow Video's, video transfer on this, again, was remastered by Lakeshore Entertainment, and, you know, while there are flakes and, you know, dirt and debris found in the transfer, I would definitely say that it fares better than Hellgate's transfer, but definitely on, you know, the same wavelength on that. I don't think that it's overly cleaned up. I think that it's probably the most cleaned up that we've ever seen Hell Comes to Frogtown, and I think it's nice. I mean, you do get, you know, vibrant colors popping in, you know, from the sky, you know, the desert, you know, the desert landscapes that they're in. You know, you get pretty decent detail in actors' faces. You know, you can definitely see, you know, Roddy Piper's, the scarring on his face, very nicely detailed. The makeup designs of all the, you know, the frog mutants found in the film come across really nicely in the transfer, but like I said, it's, you know, it was never a pretty looking film, and this one wasn't overly, you know, remastered, wasn't overly remastered meticulously by any means, but I think that it was cleaned up just enough to warrant it the best looking Hell Comes to Frogtown has ever looked, but it still retains that very, you know, that quality and spirit that you got from it when you first saw it on VHS. So it's a very fine line that this transfer plays, but a very pleasing one that I think Arrow Video did very well, just as well as the Hellgate one. But, you know, definitely a little bit better. Like I said, you know, the dirt and debris are definitely at a much more minimal level than Hellgate's was, but sounds really good too. You know, there's definitely more action in this one than Hellgate, so it definitely, you know, takes advantage of shootouts and, you know, things of that nature. So comes across nicely, you know, dialogue never gets lost. So it's a fun one to really crank the volume up on. And, you know, again, with Arrow Video, always, you know, kind of, you know, delivering all the great special features that you could ask for. You get a Grappling with Green Gargantuans featurette, which is a really awesome 20-minute interview with Roddy Piper speaking about his leading man turn in the film, you know, his experience in wrestling, and then, of course, you know, moving on into They Live, you know, and other acting, you know, paths that he took. It's a really good, honest interview, and, you know, one that really, you know, sells this Blu-ray edition home, at least for me. You also get an Amphibian Armageddon featurette with actor Brian Frank, remembering his role as Commander Toady. He was actually the actor that was in, you know, the makeup, the mutant, you know, frog makeup for Commander Tony. So that's a really cool interview, too. He looks back with fond memories. And you also get a creature feature creator, effects wizard Steve Wang reveals the secrets behind all of, you know, his special effects makeup work on this, which is a very informative interview, too, that really lets you in on the insights of, you know, the budget of this, you know, kind of the behind-the-scenes drama that went on with this, and how Steve Wang really achieved, you know, everything in this film for practically nothing. I mean, he had no money, was asking a very small budget just to keep the job on this, and, you know, what he achieved for, I think it was like $12,000 is really amazing. So I had a lot of fun with Hell Comes to Frogtown. It's definitely a film right up my alley that, you know, mixes, you know, a post-war nuclear invasion matched with, you know, really schlocky, you know, creature feature type aesthetics going on in it. And of course you have Roddy Piper's great level performance, you know, just kind of sealing the deal for me. So really fun time with Hell Comes to Frogtown, and some great special features to boot. As you can see, you also get a newly commissioned artwork by one of my favorite artists, Jeff Zorno, who's also worked with Scream Factory as well as, you know, various other things, but one of my favorite artists working today, and I really think that he encaptured that really great B-movie sci-fi tone that the film has going for it. So really awesome stuff on there. When you turn that one around, you get, you know, of course, a synopsis of the film and all the special features that you're going to be finding in this one. And then when you crack this one open, you get the Blu-ray right here, and then when you flip it over, you get the DVD copy. And then over here you get some advertisements, for Remo, Unarmed, and Dangerous, which I assume Arrow will be putting out in the near future. And then you get a great little booklet, just like Hellgate's, with some, great original poster art on there. Some credits on here. Yet again, you get a new essay called Mean and Green by Callum Weddell, which is another great, really well-written essay. This is a wonderful read, matched with some great stills from the film itself. Right there, really cool action shot of Roddy Piper. But yeah, great essay. Really recommend reading that. And I'm not sure if I informed you guys of this either, but just like Hellgate, you also get the option of reversible cover art on this too, which is great. I love when companies like Arrow and Scream Factory, give fans options on that one, especially in this case. But yes, Hell Comes to Frogtown. Really over-the-top, really fun, schlocky B-movie sci-fi extravaganza. Had a ball with this one, and if you guys are interested in this one, again, remember that this is limited to only 1,000 copies, so I would recommend picking it up sooner rather than later. It's available right now. Alrighty guys, and the final film that we're going to be talking about in this week's installment of the Blu-ray DVD Weekly Wrap-Up is available February 25th, and it's the collector's edition of The Shadow from Shout Factory. Now also, following in the tradition of, riding the coattails of the success of Batman, this was Universal Studios' response to kind of get into the superhero gang, cashing in on a old, radio serial program. I believe it was from the 30s or 40s. The Shadow stars Alec Baldwin as kind of this, rough criminal drug lord living in a distant country when he is kind of introduced to this otherworldly power, and from then on he kind of turns his life around and decides to use the powers for the greater good and for justice. So upon returning back to New York City, he becomes, this dashing playboy, similar in like a Bruce Wayne type of manner, and he goes there to, bring justice to evildoers. But when a descendant of Genghis Khan crashes on New York City, he wants to kind of put the world to rest with with the help of an atomic bomb. That's when the Shadow steps up and has to put, an end to this very challenging nemesis. The Shadow was a film that I grew up watching on VHS regularly. I definitely remember it being on TV just as often as well, but, it's, looking back on it, it very much is a B-movie through and through. I mean, they took the whole radio serial concept that this property was based on, and really just embellished it. I mean, they really set it, in a great period, it being the 30s, 40s, in and around that time period, and it's just, it kind of, captures a tone that Dick Tracy was managed to invoke too, with, really nice matted, painted backgrounds for, like, the city landscapes, actors wearing, the trench coats and the fedora hats, and, women just really glamorous dresses and stuff. It's just a spirit and a tone like that that I really love in films, and The Shadow really brings that to light really well. I think they did a really phenomenal job, casting a light on that time period. The performances are really fun in this one. Alec Baldwin hams it up entirely, especially when he's playing The Shadow, and he's in these, really over-the-top prosthetic makeups with this really, like, gargantuan nose and, cover, kind of looking like a bandit from the Old West and what have you. But, he's surrounded by a really great all-star cast, like Penelope Ann Miller. You have Ian McKellen in this one. Just Tim Curry is in this one. It's a really diverse, unique bundling of character actors, but it works really well in The Shadow. As far as pulpish properties from this time period, I'm always going to be more partial to Dick Tracy or The Rocketeer. I mean, those were just always my favorites growing up, but I still love The Shadow, and I do think that time has been pretty kind to The Shadow. I think that it's aged very nicely, and you can really appreciate it today as, the B-movie, camp film that it was. It feels very comfortable. It's going to look very comfortable on a shelf next to the 1960s Batman series, but it's very fun, great energy, really great spirit invoked with this one, and, it's kind of, wrapped together with a really, great array of performances from the core cast. So, had a really great time with this one. It was really fun revisiting it on Blu-ray from Shout Factory. The 1080p transfer on this one is really remarkable. I know that Universal's previous Blu-ray release just wasn't the nicest looking transfer. very muddled in DNR, but luckily Shout Factory's collector's edition has, fixed that entirely. Really lush colors. Contrast is a little high at times, but nothing too bad. I mean, this is just a really bright and vibrant looking film. No DNR usage as seen in this one. Great grain structure in this one. Being the shadow, there's plenty of nighttime sequences. Alec Baldwin is donned in black a lot during the film, so the black levels come across really well. No disappointments in that department, but just very surprised on how it looked. A lot of the special effects that were achieved in this time. They come across really good, very crisp and clear in this one. So overall, the collector's edition treatment that the Shout Factory did on this one really clears up any, issues that you had with the Universal transfer. This one looks really great and really true to how it originally looked, and the DTS HD Master audio track is really great too. Again, another action-filled film with, explosions and shootouts, and, all that comes across very nicely. It rattled my eardrums when I had this thing raised on my speaker, so be forewarned that the mix on this one is really rock, and it's definitely going to send your speakers for quite a ride. In this collector's edition, you get some new interviews, again, packing this one with A-list talent willing to sit down and talk about it. You have the director Russell Mulcahy, as well as Alec Baldwin, sitting down to talk in a series of interviews that run over 20 minutes. In addition, you have Penelope Ann Miller talking on this, who looks as beautiful as ever. You get production designer Joseph Nemec III. His insight is really interesting too, because again, it's just the whole look and the production itself that makes this film, look the way it does and look as beautiful as it does. So his insights are really informative. You also get interviews with director of photography Stephen Burham and writer David Koepp, who of course has gone on to, other A-list talent like writing Jurassic Park and directing Secret Window with Johnny Depp. So you have all these people sitting down to reminisce about their experiences and their work on The Shadow, which is really awesome. And rounding all that out, you get a theatrical trailer and a still gallery. So a collector's edition done just right by Shout Factory, as if there would be any doubt in that department, but overall had a really great time revisiting The Shadow. So be sure to scoop it up when it becomes available on February 25th. Okay guys, that concludes this week's installment of the Blu-ray DVD Weekly Wrap-Up. I appreciate everybody tuning in, so be sure to stay subscribed and keep checking back at mikespopculture.com, because over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to be taking an advanced look at a ton of great titles, including the Oscar-nominated Warner Brothers film Gravity, as well as the anticipated Season 1 release of LA Law from Shout Factory. We also have The Invoking from Image Entertainment, Artsploitation Films' latest offering of Memory of the Dead, and Transformers Armada, the complete series from Shout Factory in March. All this and so much more, so stay tuned and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.